Hey, welcome to Alum House Sound. My name is Dave, and today we're doing some Q&A. We have a bunch of questions that have come in, some through the internet, some through some Facebook groups. I've answered a number of them in the Facebook groups, as well as my email and my contact card. And I just want to kind of walk you through some of these that come up. We'll just read them off the iPad, and if we need to, we can just explain them here verbally, or we'll jump into the computer, do a screen share of X32 Edit, and help guide you along the answers. So let's run the intro clip, and we'll see you here for question number one. All right, so on the iPad here, the first question is from Chris. Chris says, thank you in advance. I'm running P16s and I want to get reverb coming through the Vox. I'm assuming he wants to add reverb into his in-ear monitors through the P16. He says, so I created a bus called Vox P16 with reverb and send that bus to the P16. Is there another way to do this to get effects in general coming through the P16? So Chris, what we want to make sure of is that you build the bus, and not just the bus to build your reverb, but a specific bus that's going to have the reverb added into it to go into your P16. Let's take a look at that. We'll jump in here to X32 Edit. So here we're looking at a general scene. This is a scene from a different church that I've worked with in the past, the most recent one that I have loaded on my computer. So what we're going to do is first look at the buses. If we can see down here on the right-hand side, we have a number of different buses, and it says HP1, HP2. Let's say that you're taking just one bus that you want to send your reverb as a mono signal into your P16. That's a lot of qualifications. The other option would be to take a stereo bus, so you have stereo effects then coming into your P16. That's going to take up 2 of your 16 channels, but you could make it an effects bus. So let's do 1 channel first, then maybe 2. The first one here, let's take bus 10. I don't see anything in bus 10 when I quickly look at these inputs. There's a couple there, but whatever. We're not sending this customer back this file. So let's jump in here. We're going to first label this bus by coming to the bus matrix. Bus 10, we're going to call this P16 verb. All right, I'm going to just make it a color so we can find it pretty easily. And there we go. We've got that set up. We're going to set this to 0 dB, and this is a mono signal now. When I come back to my inputs, all of my inputs here are just regular inputs. We don't want to send any of our input signals to this bus. What we want to send are the effects returns. So we come to the aux effects layer for your consoles. This is the 3rd layer down, depending on the console that you're on. And what I'm going to do is say that we have reverb for our effects 1. Now, let's actually just check this. We'll do it the right way. When we look at effects, and we've confirmed that effects 1 is a reverb. Let's say that's the one we want to use, and we're going to go ahead, because we've got our P16 bus selected on the right, we're going to add in reverb. I'll set that up to 0. Obviously, you can adjust this to taste, but setting it to 0 gives you the full reverb effect going into this mono bus to send to your P16s. One of the challenges here is that we are now summing a stereo signal into mono, and maybe if you're doing that and it's just for the IEMs, a delay might actually be better for you, because a reverb is going to create the stereo imaging of reverberations. When you sum that to mono, it might just get muddy. So instead, what we try to do is create those reverberations, but in a layered effect from what we hear repeating. That gives us sometimes, with a delay, more of what we want, and that will sound fine in a mono configuration. Regardless, the setup would be the same. We're going in a mono bus. Here we've set this up. The next thing we want to do is select bus 13. That's what feeds this effects rack. We come down here, we select bus 13. Now what we can do is go and add our inputs, and in this case, they've already got it set up. They've got vocals going into that reverb, and you can add whatever you want into the reverb. So you're sending inputs into bus 13 or your effects bus that sends to your bus effects rack. That effects rack gets returned as additional inputs on the aux effects layer, and then you can add that into a different bus. That different bus, in this case, bus 10, yes, bus 10, is our P16 Verb bus. We're now going to send that to the P16s. Let's do that in our routing. We come up to the top, we select routing, and now we have our inputs here. Everything else are considered outputs for the most part. We come down to Ultranet, and this is where we can now select one channel. Let's say we're going to send it on output 16 into our P16s. Then we would come over here, we would find bus 10, we would select it, and notice now that says P16 Verb. So we've taken inputs, we've routed inputs into a bus for reverb. That was the Reverb Bus 13. That sends to our reverb effect. The reverb effect comes back in on our aux in returns. We send those aux returns to bus 10. Bus 10 routes out to the P16. Now what you have the ability to do is go to channel 16 on your P16, turn that up, and you'll have reverb in your ears. If you wanted to do this in a stereo configuration, it would take two buses instead of bus 10. It would be bus 9 and bus 10. Let's take a peek at what that looks like. Same concept here. We're going to take bus 9. We're going to go to our bus inputs here. Bus 9, we go to config. There we go. Stereo link, yes please. We'll make both of these red. You would probably label them as well. Now these are going to be hard panned left and right. That's ideal. Same process though. We come into bus 9 now. We go to aux effects returns, and here we can turn our, let's get there. There we go. Now we can turn up our effects return. It's going to turn it up for both bus 9 and bus 10. See, we go bus 9, bus 10. If I turn it down in bus 9, it turns it down in bus 10 as well. You can see that. So bus 9, again, we're going to set this at unity. The only change we need to make now is back up in our routing. We go up to routing, we come down here, and now we want to choose bus 9 and bus 10. That would be now channels 15 and 16. And with that in mind, you could send any effects that you want into these two channels, because again, the effects returns, reverbs, delays, anything else you want, go crazy. You can send those into this effects pair and then send those into your in-ear monitors. Obviously, this is still labeled monitors and P16 Verb. You would adjust the naming convention to match whatever you want, but hopefully this helps you get a feel for what you can do with using the onboard effects, then the buses, and then send that to your P16s. And that's a great way to get some effects into your in-ear monitors. Again, if I'm using one bus to send to a P16, I'm usually going to go with a delay, a mono delay, over a reverb, just because the reverb might add more muddiness to what you're getting in your head versus a mono delay, which is actually going to add the reverberation that you're looking for, or that delay effect. Anyway, give it a shot, plug in some headphones, test it out. Don't spring this on your people on your next event. Do it before a practice so you can try it out and then warn them. That's my pro tip for you. All right, so hopefully that is helpful for you. We go now to question 2. We're just going to do these 2 questions because I want to make sure we get the answers in here for you and don't make you have some huge long video to watch. Next question here, it says this. This is from Kanto. It says, can you use regular outputs and aux outputs to get more outputs for adjustable stereo IEMs? Not sure if they're linked to each other. So Kanto, the X32 offers a variety of outputs, whether you're using a stage box or just the physical console. At a minimum, if you've got a rack unit, then you have 8 outputs plus 6 aux outputs. Depending on your configuration, most people don't use those aux outputs. often, and they are 1/4 inch. One pair even has RCA outputs. You do have the ability to go in and utilize all of these independently. What you're going to run into limitation-wise is the amount of mixes you can build, because you did say you're looking for independently adjustable stereo mixes. So if you've got the compact unit like what I have back here, it's just like the rack. You have 8 XLR outputs. Let's say you have 2 of those being used for your main left and right. That leaves you with 6 additional outputs plus 6 aux outs. And so if we take 6 plus 6, that's 12. If we divide it by 2 because you're running stereo, that could give you 6 stereo in-ear monitor mixes. Let's first show you the routing that you want to get to be able to utilize these. So let's jump into the screen here. Let's look at our routing page. We've got it up here from the last question. The first thing to consider is the outs right here. Outs are going to be important. So when we look at this, we have 16 outs listed. We can build 16 outs. Again, we're going to be using some of these for our main outs. It does get very specific about how you set these up. And so in this case, I want to set up my main left and right on 7 and 8. I want to go ahead and just lock those in as 7 and 8, the outputs from my physical console. If you've got a full-size console, you have more luxury. You've got the same amount of outputs, but you have more physical XLR outputs. So you could use left and right down here on 15 and 16, which is the common setup. But let's go with the small platform. Let's assume we've got a rack or a compact console. We're going to go 7 and 8 for our mains. That leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outputs here on our mix buses. Then we can come down here and we can also, remember we have to link pairs, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is kind of the normal setup you would see. Now again, you're not going to have all of these outputs to be able to leave the console, but let's go down this process here. We've mapped all of these to virtual outputs, we'll call them. That becomes important because then we get into setting up the physical outputs. XLR here determines which mixes leave our console. We only have 8, and what we want to do is route 1 through 4 and then 5 through 8. That's pretty standard. These 9 through 16 are not going to matter in your situation if you've got the smaller platform. We just don't have those outputs available. But let's keep going. This will now send mix bus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 out the XLR outputs 1 through 6. 7 and 8 would be reserved for your main left and right mix. What do we do about your other mixes going to your monitors? We close our routing, we come down to the bus matrix layer, and here is where we can start to set these all up. If I come in here, I could stereo link, and this is going to give me 1 pair. That would be in-ear monitor 1 in stereo. Then I can go 13, 14, I'll link this, and what I'm going to do, see those are pulled down now. Then 5 and 6, I can link these. If it wants to link, there we go. We'll set these at a different level. 7 and 8 normally would be reserved for your main outs, but this is bus 7 and 8. We still have these available. So we'll go 7 and 8. Then if you have 9 and 10, these are linked. These were from our previous example using some reverbs. Anyway, when we get down here, these are linked as well. And so you see we've got these kind of cascading. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we have 4 reverb buses. And if we wanted to, we can either use these as buses. This takes us back now. We have our 6 mixes built. Let's go back into our routing and make one adjustment. Here in XLR, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's our first 3 in-ear monitors, as well as our main outs. When we come over here to aux outs, we can now use bus 7, 8, bus 9, 10, bus 11, and 12. And what that's going to do is give us 3 more stereo outputs. You can plug 1/4-inch cables into the back of your console, right into your stereo, into your transmitter, and you can transmit all of your stereo signals. Now that was a bunch of information, pretty quick, about our monitors. Don't forget you need to go in and mix your monitors and set up proper gain structure. I'm going to link some videos down in the description. One about gain structure. That's the most important thing you can do. The next one is about setting up 1/4-inch cables from your aux outs into an in-ear monitor transmitter. I've got a video about that. And then the third and final one is going to be just in general about monitors and how you can utilize all the buses here to set up your monitors. So that's 2 questions that we just did, pretty in-depth about P16s with reverb, as well as a bunch of stereo in-ear monitors and how to get the most out of your small platform console. Hope you found this video helpful. If you need some one-on-one help, go ahead and find my website down in the description. You can click on the contact card and fill out a contact card. We can start a conversation outside of YouTube there. If you have any additional questions just about monitors or anything in general, you can leave it in the comment section below. I'm always answering the questions in the comment section. But that's it for this video. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.